Today on the breakdown, we got some interesting stuff for you. So, by way of a story, let me tell you what happened here. We did our table talk episode, maybe an episode of that podcast maybe 2 months ago, where I played a hand and I ended up playing it against, without knowing at the time, a member of another poker podcast, the Suited Kings podcast. It was Max from the Suited Kings podcast. And we played this crazy hand where a lot of money went in and nobody had anything. Even though a big bet was made on the river and there was a call on the river, we both had ace high. And so there was some discussion around that. And anyway, we decided to invite them on the show to talk about their experience of the hand. Max, what his thought process was. Wes, who's the other Suited King, what his thoughts are on it all. He's sort of the most mathy guy of the four of us anyway. Grant's going to weigh in. I'm still going to talk about my thought process too. So we're going to take you through the whole hand, everything that we thought, and a whole bunch of other things as well. Let me tell you, it gets a little spicy here and there because it generally does on the breakdown. Anyway, we're just going to get into it right now. So without further ado, get ready because here we go.
About a month ago, we did one of our, I would say, more perplexing table talk hands. Jonathan played a hand on clubs where by the end, I was just kind of like, what the hell are you doing? And also, what's the other guy doing a little bit? And that's not that uncommon on clubs. You see that online in, the 50 sweeps coins games, but this happened to be a pro player. We didn't know until after. It's Max from the Suited Kings podcast. Yeah, he's doing air quotes pro. He's good, I guess. He thinks he's good. He's good enough to make a podcast, right? That's what he. So we got him and his co-host Wes, the Minnesota duo that everybody wants to hear from. That's what they say.
Preach, brother.
And so we're gonna rehash the hand because it was really a weird one. If you don't remember it and you're watching, Jonathan has it all queued up, and we're gonna watch it again. If you're listening, we will walk you through it, and we're gonna talk about it with the opponent in the hand. So, Jonathan, get us started on the hand.
All right. By the way, you only had one issue with one of my decisions. Don't give me this.
I'm trying to make it sound interesting. I'm trying to make people keep listening to the fucking show. Is that okay with you if I try to get people interested?
I wish you would find other ways to do it. That is all.
I guess
all right.
I should probably also give Max and Wes a chance to introduce themselves before we start. That would have been
That's
smart
a good idea.
in the first place. Let's do it. Max, Wes, welcome. Say a thing or two about Minnesota and why it's so great.
Lots of lakes, and you can buy liquor on Sundays.
Much better poker players than anywhere else in the country, and much smarter people as a whole.
It sounds like a bad
That's what
thing.
Minnesota's known for, being the smartest state in the union, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone says that.
Yeah. All right, let's see how smart they are with his hand. Let's take a look.
All right. So I'm going to also narrate it for the listeners, for the podcast-only people. Here we are. I'm on the button, and Max is to my immediate left in the small blind. He's got 100 blinds. He's the effective stack, and neither of us know who the other guy is as we're doing this hand. To me, he's just another member of the club's poker population, and it's the same for him with me. We have since confirmed that.
Can I ask you a question, Jonathan?
Please.
Do you really just play in sweeps coins format and not big blind format? My eyes are
coins?
my brain hurts looking at this right now.
Yeah. Oh, I actually do. I do just play in whatever the currency format is. When I'm playing tournaments, sometimes I'll flip it over to the big blinds, but I don't. It's a fair point, and
we just like needling. It's all good. Enjoy.
To me, actually, that's the way to do it. Is you do the big blinds format for tournaments, and I think that makes sense. But I like to keep it in sweeps coins for cash too. It just something about it feels better. I don't know. It also is it's medium quality practice for actually doing the math live when you are forced to. So at least
I just got to needle at our frenemies, our podcast opponents.
I don't know if we're as good enough anything's to be called frenemies. Okay,
yeah,
let's just
walk it back,
Minnesota.
Buddy. All right.
Oh my God, we are acquaintance enemies. Anyway,
good enough for me. It's quality.
So it is going to, I believe, fold to me on the button with. I have Ace Jack suited. Ace Jack of diamonds. Let's see if they actually fold to me. But
You have
damn it, I
201
think they're
big
going
blinds. 201 big blinds.
Doesn't
which is
matter.
Important. It's
What's
sweeps points.
important? That's right. So I make it 2.5 on the button as is my standard raise, and Max in the small blind is going to make it 11 blinds, 5.5 sweeps coins. I'm doing it both ways, and we're going to get a fold from the big blind. It's going to come back to me.
Yep.
So let's talk about Max's hand for a quick second because we have him here. We know
That's
what
right.
it is. It's ace 10 off. I don't remember the suits, and we can't see them on Jonathan's screen.
Doesn't matter.
It's off, right? Or is it suited? I can't remember, Max.
It's offsuit.
Offsuit.
It's off. Okay. And this is a pretty standard 3-bet in this situation. It like just fold to 4-bet. But against the general population, which you think Jonathan is a part of at this point, what's your general, like, what are you hoping for in this spot with ace 10 in most cases?
I'm 3-betting for value here. I mean, ace 10 is going to be a lot better than a ton of his opening range, obviously. The sizing, I mean, typically from small blind to button, especially when we're this deep too, I'm going to be sizing up typically. Like if there was, when we have someone opening on the button like this, what was it? 2.5. Okay, yeah, sweeps coins got me all messed up here again. But yeah, you open 2.5. I'm typically going to go 4.5 to 5x plus from out of position here. But yeah, essentially it's just a 3-bet for value against a button open range.
Yeah.
And if you were in Jonathan's seat, what would your thought process be with ace jack suited?
I mean, honestly, I think he could go both ways, and maybe Wes can correct. So here's the truth about Wes and I, and he's going to be more of the deep stack cash game professional, as you'd say. I'm more of a tournament player, just kind of as a some information there to give. But yeah, so in my opinion here, ace jack suited, it plays very well post flop. Oftentimes it can also be the better hand against a small blind 3-bet. So I think flatting or 4-betting could be on the table here. I might 4-bet ace jack offsuit more frequently though, just because it has a little less playability post flop. But I don't know, Wes, what do you think?
Yeah, I like the last part of what you said. So I'll say first off, like I think pre-flop you guys actually both played this perfectly. Like, which maybe we might not say about every play moving forward.
We'll find out. You know, maybe it's sometimes we get surprised. We've done plenty of breakdowns where we're like, what the hell is this random guy in the main event doing? And they're like, holy shit, it was perfect when we think about it. So
we will see. We will see. But no, so I think I agree with the very last part of what Max said, that ace jack off is actually a bit better for 4-bet. Ace jack suited, I'm actually always just flatting here. It's a very easy hand to play in position, relatively speaking, and it's like if you 4-bet, you're folding out a lot of stuff that you dominate, and you're getting calls or jams from, like, I guess ace queen won't jam, but like you get jammed on by, granted, like I guess you quote unquote find out where you're at against like queens and stuff, but you're also gonna get sometimes jammed on by like 10s and 9s, which sucks because then you don't get to, then I assume you're folding and you don't get to realize your equity. Yeah. And by the way, I actually, so if we're going to what like the pre-flop charts would say, it would be ace jack suited, like pure call, ace jack offsuit, like mostly call and a little 4-bet. So,
okay.
I like it.
Yeah. The 3-bet size by Max, I personally go like between, I guess like 11 or 12 big blinds, and he went 11. So yeah, that's like right around what I think the normal would be.
Can I jump in here real quick and mention that I also watched one of your guys' content where I believe it was Jonathan V-pipped 100%, or was that you, Grant?
That was Grant. That was Grant.
Oh, that was Grant. So that must have been the name I was looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, so my thought here, one thing I wanted to add, but it kind of is irrelevant now, is my notes on you. I didn't know. I wish I could look and see what my notes were you on at this point, Jonathan. But I know I was at the same table with Grant when he was 100% V-pip, and for some reason I thought that was potentially Jonathan. So I might have had that note on him as well.
Oh yeah. So, and when I was 100% V-pipping, just real quick, did you know it was me, or did you?
I had
just
no
think it was
idea. No.
So you were like, this guy's just playing every fucking hand.
Yeah, exactly. I probably wrote some very nice notes on you.
Yeah.
I mean, he did very well. He nailed it.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
I
I want to say
ran.
just one thing too about this spot specifically, and this is sort of echoing what Wes said, but like the continuing range, if I 4-bet, is so brutal for me. My opponent's continuing range here. Like essentially I'm folding out all, like ace 10 is I think, a fold to a 4-bet, but ace queen's never folding to my 4-bet, right? Like that's exactly like makes it so horrible, you know? So I don't know. To me, I'm not surprised it's a pure call. It feels like a pure call. This hand is like made to be called. It feels like, especially in position. Like everything about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially at 100 blinds effective. I mean, it's possible that if we upped it to like a 400 blind effective situation, that we can spice it up with a few more 4-bets because there's a lot more maneuverability post flop. There's not nearly as many 5-bets in that scenario. So that changes things. But of course, we're online and it's usually 100 blinds effective. So we're just hoping to flop top pair and basically never fold unless things get really wonky, right?
That's As a tournament player, I'm just like, I'm in no man's land when I have 100 big blinds.
Well, that's great. We should play some more on Clubs Poker.
Yeah.
You should see it when we have our meetup games. Oh, he and I will just go all in for. It's like he doesn't know what to do. It's just queen
100 big blinds
suited.
It's essentially rip. 10 big blinds with an extra 0. So
that's true. It's the same thing.
It's a great way to think about it.
Powers of 10 are a myth. Come play with the Poker Guys on Clubs Poker using the code POKERGUYS. We've been playing there for a while, and I got to tell you, it's a good site. I'm enjoying myself on the site, Jonathan.
Yeah, I play a lot there, and I will say a few things. One, the software is excellent. It's smooth. It works great. They pay out quickly and efficiently, and the games are fabulous, Grant. Just fabulous. Everyone should be on this site for sure.
Use the code POKERGUYS for a 100% deposit bonus.
Well, that's good.
All right, let's roll the tape. Let's see what goes on here.
So as we've all been saying, I should probably call. I do call ace jack suited, and the flop comes out queen 7-4, 2 spades, 1's club. To remind everyone, I have ace jack of diamonds, and Max has ace 10 off. We don't remember the suits, but I don't think they're very relevant here.
I don't think I had a spade. I don't think
the ace of spades would be relevant, but we don't think.
I don't think I do. Yeah. We'll see at the end, but I will say that this is where the first blunder occurred.
All right.
Okay. So, and here, I mean, we'll see who we think made the blunder. The first thing that happens is Max checks,
and you had check fold like almost clicked. Didn't you?
Oh, I'm ready to fold on this queen 7-4, no red cards flop. Yeah, I'm out of here.
Listen, you know what's crazy to think about? If I were to just hit bet there, we would not be talking right now. We'd be Grant would be at frickin' Costco, and you would be doing whatever you're doing.
I would be at Costco.
All because I didn't click bet there. Here we are.
It's a sliding door situation. This is a
like things diverge way more than we're making it sound. Like I could be married, I could have children, multiple children at this point.
The butterfly effect is crazy here.
Exactly.
But maybe you would be in a worse place because you would have less money.
Oh, shit.
Oh, maybe I'd have more money, though. Maybe I'd have more money. You never know how these things go. Anyway.
Let's ask Wes real quick about what he thinks about his boy's check here with the ace 10 off. Let's say he has no spade. We don't know for sure, but let's say he has no spade on the queen 7-4.
Yeah. Well, so a couple of thoughts here. My first thought is like, and this was my thought when Max first shared the hand with me. I thought it made sense to either bet or check. Like I guess my thought was like, you can just sort of range bet small, I think. Yeah. But and so that was my sort of initial thought. I will say I have the solver pulled up right here. So we have another we've got the GTO wizard gods with us too.
This is what it's like when you do podcasts with people who actually prepare and study and think about stuff. It's
brutal.
Wes is the brains, I'm the looks of Suited Kings. So that's
I mean, that's clear.
That's what I like him to think too. So give him some credit for something. But ace 10 offsuit, if you don't have a spade, is actually a pure check. And
I think I nailed it then.
Right. And then ace 10 off with a spade is still, you can go bet or check. Like it mixes. So
wow, pure check.
This is actually, from a theory standpoint, not a blunder at all.
Okay, but
I was told otherwise, but yeah. Let's
I mean, that's of course a GTO situation where we're talking about being in equilibrium against a perfect opponent, so you don't get exploited. Here we are. We believe we're playing up against the Clubs Poker 25-cent, 50-cent population. We're not, but we believe we are, right? So what do we think is the optimal move with ace 10 off here? Let's say no spade, ace 10 off. What do we want to do and why?
That's a good question. Well, okay, so I guess what I would say is like, do we think people are over folding here? Or do we think they're...
I think people are going to be stickier in these streets than they are going to be tighter, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I actually think that we can go with the solver as a pretty good answer for this particular spot because it doesn't feel like a particularly exploitative spot at the moment. It feels
it's not
pretty,
there yet. It's just
pretty
vanilla.
neutral.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with letting the computer decide what my fate is at this point from a what's a good play perspective.
Yeah,
And
I guess...
and I will say that, you know, being that I checked here, I'm assuming I'm going to guess that my thought process at that point is that I'm just trying to get to showdown unless I improve.
And actually,
it's interesting to me because my inclination as someone who 3-bets a fair amount in the world is in the heads up spot as the 3-better with the initiative is to bet a board like this most of the time, and I
That
believe
makes sense
that's
to me.
a really profitable play. So
That seems to make sense to me as well. And I will say also in regards to my last comment, if something like a king came on the turn, then I could maybe start turning my hand to a bluff as well, starting to target A7X or say 7-8 suited hands, kind of like in that range. But
I mean, I would like to have a juicier backdoor situation to bet. I'm really personally I'm okay with the check. Like the one backdoor of the king jack coming in is not that enticing when we're starting 100 big blinds deep. I mean, having a spade would make a big difference as far as comfortable continuing turn cards.
I like it.
I'm pretty okay with the check personally.
okay.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I agree. And I also was going to say one more thing on this sort of player pool. I think the strategy, and you guys I'm sure would agree, is like we just try and make a good enough hand and put in a bunch of chips against this sort of player because they're just not going to fold much.
I mean,
so
that's
I gotta
pretty
tell
much
ya.
been my strategy.
That has not been my strategy, and I've been really
Really?
successful. Yeah, like
Okay.
I'm done really well, and I absolutely. I mean, when I make a good hand, I get paid, but I'm absolutely pushing people around pretty consistently. Not in this configuration that we have right here, but when I have the initiative, I generally put a lot of pressure on people. Mostly doing things like betting relatively small on these kinds of flops in this spot to keep their weaker stuff in. Like you get a lot of insta folds into it, but you get a lot of weaker stuff will stick around. Like pocket fives are going to call once, right?
Yep.
Ace X with the ace of spades would probably call once in position. But then you bomb the turn. Not even bomb the turn. You just bet the turn with some about half pot, 60% pot. Again, depending what the turn is, of course. But on brick type turns or turns that seem good for my range. I think betting the turn gets a lot more folds and also sets up, if the board is at all more favorable to me than my opponent, making big bets on the river and triple barreling there works a tremendous amount of the time, I got to tell you. So I hear you guys saying like you don't think people are folding a lot and making a big hand. I think that is a way to make money on this site for sure. But I also think you can be aggressive, and that can work too, as long as you're putting enough pressure and you're sort of forcing them to have the kind of range you want them to have when you're making your big bet. Like if you bet big on flop, big on turn, and they go call, you can't bluff the river. Like they're going to call for sure, right? So you have to keep the weaker stuff in.
I
guys
get that to
feel
some
like,
extent, but at the same point, I think what Max's initial question about is the player pool stickier thing, like you still have to choose some hands not to do it with, right? You're not just doing it with ubiquity. You kind of can't, or else you will. Either you're like, if you have been Jonathan and it's been working, then I think maybe you're just running good with what your opponents have to just like ubiquitously 3-barrel in these spots. I think you need to have some reason to.
Well, of course it's not ubiquitous, right? You're paying attention to what the board is and if I have any kind of significant blockers or not. That stuff is going to play into it also. But very often, not always, but I find myself triple barreling a lot more than I used to in spots because it just works incredibly well. Like, obviously I get called sometimes. I feel like an idiot, but like I find myself doing it a lot.
You must have listened to our, you should double and triple barrel bluff more often.
Of course he did. That's how we got here in the first place.
That's right.
Might I suggest check
Little plug.
raises as a way to win these pots? I like check raising in spots like this. Anyway, who cares about all this? We're getting way too deep into theory land. Thanks a lot,
we
Wes. Nerd.
Yeah,
Frickin'
you're
nerd
welcome.
What an idiot.
with his computer. Let's.
Hey Max, you
So
played
s-
solver perfect. You should be happy. you came in saying this was a big blunder on the flop, and here I am just saying you played it perfectly.
I love you, Wes.
Yeah,
Hate,
got your
is my,
back.
hate for you is my love language. Let's continue.
I know.
All right. Well, Jonathan
right.
checks back. So at
Right.
the time, I think I'm pretty sure I was okay with that.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine.
Oh, we
that's
like the
a
check
pretty-
back. That was the thing I was most curious what everyone thought about. Actually, was the check back.
I would have checked back with ace jack
Yeah.
and diamond too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm
absolutely
not.
would.
Yeah. Good.
You just
Yeah,
have
there's,
a
like,
ton of
nothing going
showdown
on.
value still against a small blind versus button 3-bet hand.
I mean, it's really hard to realize that value if I'm ahead. I feel like most of the time hands that are worse than mine are going to try and bluff at some point in the hand, and it's hard for me to. I mean, I can just station, but I feel like that's a less profitable way to live for the most part in these spots. But like
I'm the
you know, like-
station here. It's just so we're clear.
as it turns
we'll
out,
find- we'll-
you're the station.
Don't reveal the ending before the ending, Max.
Isn't
Anyway.
this the second time you guys have aired this?
Yeah,
one?
but
Yes.
people have short memories. So
That's
Including
true.
myself.
yeah,
That's true. Anyway, I'm excited that everyone thinks this is a check back. I'm glad to hear that.
I do.
Yeah. Oh,
I
I
was
think
curious about that.
easily.
Okay, good. All right. So the turn is the 9 of hearts. And I get ready to click that check fold button again. And Max will find a check for a second time.
let's talk about that.
Yep.
Okay.
Wes,
Yeah.
how did Max do with this check, in your opinion and the computer's opinion? I'm curious about this one. Once we get
All
to the
right.
turn, check.
I think it makes sense. Like at this point, well, okay. So I actually have two thoughts here. My first thought was I like the check, and it feels like the plan the whole way was just to check down and try and beat like a worse ace high or, you know,
A
king
lot of
jack.
other hands. I mean, here's the truth. We're in the 50 no limit streets, which they've brought up a ton. I mean, our opponent could just have like, I mean, who even knows? I would say he could just have like eight jack suited, I guess, or something like that, or maybe even
For
eight
sure.
jack eight
Yeah,
off.
I think the
Just
the
random
tough
stuff.
thing, which clearly Max, you had a plan to, you know, combat.
I wasn't
this.
checking to fold at this point, but yeah, continue.
That's what I'm saying is like you're going to pretty much anything besides ace high, like jack 10 suited, all this stuff has either made a pair or has a draw of some sort, it feels
Yep.
like.
Yep.
And so you're not really going to be able to check down too often. The other thing I was thinking, so I was just watching this video like last night, and it's sort of a different spot, but there's a hand where in a tournament it was like open king 9 and the hijack, cut off calls, and then we check the ace high board and then like delay c-bet on turn or river because it looks like we always have something when we check. It's a little counterintuitive. And
It essentially says we have showdown value.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's sort of how with ace 10, that's how your hand, because it looks like you could have once in a while just top set, or you could trap aces, or you could have like jacks or 10s where you're trying to pot control flop
Exactly.
and
Yep.
think you're ahead. So it's like, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, and I will say it looks like the solver wants to mostly check, still check like without a spade, but then bet big with a spade, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think there is, because yeah, you look and he has ace jack suited. I bet if he had pocket 5s, 6s, even 8s, or like 3s, deuces, 5-4 suited, all that stuff would float you on the flop. But now if you came out and bet big, it feels way tougher to call because it feels like your bluffs would have just bet flop, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
makes
could
sense to
actually
me.
see both.
All right.
But
well,
I
I'm glad.
don't mind the check.
All right, cool. Yeah, and again, so my thought here is have ace. I mean, mentioning what I said before, my goal here is to get to showdown with my hand without if I'm not improving. And then with the 9 of hearts turn, I feel like our opponent can be picking up a ton. Well, our opponent being Jonathan here can pick up a ton of draws, like you said. Also, he can have some pairs. The river sizing will come into play for me, which we'll get into when we get to there. But yeah, I mean, our opponent can just have all the 10 jacks, or the jack 10s, the king jacks. And honestly, I think that if he had a hand that was better than mine, but still no pair, like ace jack or ace king, we're going to remove because we're going to expect he's going to 4-bet that hand. But ace jack specifically, I do expect a check back here personally.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to expect. So yeah, like I think I personally could go check or bet with Max's hand. I see no problem with the check. Just to recap for the listeners only, it's Queen 7-4-9 with 2 spades at this point. So Max is checked. What happens next? I can't remember, actually.
Well, it's going to come to me, and I am going to make a bet. So, and I bet
and what do you-
863. I bet 75% of pot here.
And remind me what you're targeting. I can see Ace King as a reasonable target.
I mean, at this point, it seems really clear to me that Deuce Nukem, which is Mac's handle, has showdown value, right? You check twice. You're choosing not to bluff, but you must not love your hand, right? So I've decided, okay, I'm probably losing most of the time here. And so I want to start putting pressure on hands that might just fold right now, because I think it's because I checked back the flop myself, and now I bet the turn. It feels like I often have, like I hit that 9 sometimes and will bet here. I might even have checked back like Queen 10 and now be betting the Queen or other things. But it feels like my opponent has Ace King, pocket 8s, pocket 6s, hands like that. Hands that are trying to get to showdown as cheap as possible. Don't want to put a lot of money in right now. And so I've decided to start to make this guy's life hard. And so that's why I size up a little bit to say, like, just fold, go away. I'm losing, but what are you going to do? That was my thought.
I think I sensed that right through the computer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good read. That's a really good read.
No, honestly, you brought it up this time. I don't know if you did in the last time you guys talked about this hand. I think one thing I thought about before when you guys were talking about before was that you were more trying to place your bet size based on what you thought I had without really thinking about what your story told. And I'm not trying to say that
true.
as a dig or anything.
No. I think that's correct. I was playing your range much more than mine here.
I do agree with you that you can have Queen 10s and even Queen Jacks that are checking back flop here. So that is a possibility. Some 9Xs as well. I guess, and that's pretty much it that I think you'd be betting for value here. And then obviously the bluffs are going to be the draws that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. I suppose I have some. I might have a few like sets also. I could, in theory, have sets, not queens, but I could have like sets of 9, sets of 7, sets of 4s that I check back once when you check flop. Yeah. In theory, not that often, honestly. I'm probably going to bet those a fair amount, but I have at least some of that too. But
I did
agree.
remove Ace Jack from your range at this point. I did. That was not. You said in the last episode that I was a little bit more polarized, and I think you nailed that. I removed some other stuff. I removed this out of what I thought you would have had.
Yeah, I think the sizing is kind of interesting for that. I mean, obviously, I think that's the key to Max's question about if you're even trying to tell a good story, because it's really not a good story with the sizing, except for the set story. Like, would you bet 9-10 suited to this size? I would guess not, but maybe you would. I don't know.
I mean,
you would once with the intention of just getting one street and then checking back.
In Jonathan's defense here, I wouldn't put it past any of these players to bet this size with 9 deuce here, like in a 3-bet pot. Like honestly, like I wouldn't put it past him. So that's fair. That's in his defense.
Is that in my defense? It doesn't feel like you defended my honor there at all when you said that.
I mean, if you are an unknown entity and you think you can get the job done with a bludgeon rather than a chisel, and it makes more sense to do it that way, even if the bludgeon is a worse tool, then you should use the bludgeon. Like
I was just trying to end the hand right here. I thought I was losing pretty much all the time, and I thought this size would get a reasonable amount of your range to fold right now. Now, the fact that you don't fold with ace 10 means I am wrong. That was the thought.
I'm willing to bet that probably any of these other players would have folded my hand.
Yeah. Oh, I think everyone folds ace 10 if they play it this way, like at this population.
And someone in our Discord was like, because I brought it up with them too to discuss it with our Discord members, and someone brought up, I can't remember who it was at this point, but they brought up like the turn is a pure fold, and my simple response was, it's not a fold when I think I'm ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, so the guy who was actually saying that, he's like an online cash grinder who I've played with a ton.
Yeah, and I think he's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about? Because we haven't gotten to it, but Max is going to call the turn, the 80% pot bet on the turn, 75%. What do you think, Wes?
I mean, I would just fold. Kind of the same as we had said. Like, do I plan I guess like there's some rivers we could plan to. If we think we're ahead, we can call rivers where the straight draws don't come in, like
The
a
banana
deuce or
rivers,
a board
yeah.
pair. Yeah. If we're up against the 9, we have overcards. But like I think what worse, like I would play, or maybe I wouldn't, but let's say that we could have, jacks 10s. We could have maybe ace 7 suited, ace 4 suited. I think even amongst the hand, like even ace king, I think does a better job of unblocking straight draws than ace 10 because we block jack 10 suited, king 10 suited, 10 8 suited. I think ace 10 is going to be like, just, I'm going to fold it. Like,
That's fine. And Grant did bring up when he was talking about it earlier, it's like, bringing up the the concept of blockers and me having a 10, and that does block the hands that I think that Jonathan obviously can be bluffing here. I mean, my response to that is blockers can just be overrated a lot of the times. Yes, obviously I can block it, but there's still plenty of combinations of those 10s available. So and I think in relation to that, I think that the size, Grant I agree with Grant that the sizing here, while like I said, some opponents can just be betting a 9 with this sizing. I'm just not. I was, sometimes I have those conviction plays, Wes, that you and I have talked about before, and something inside me was screaming that he was bluffing, which he was, just happened to be with a better hand.
One more thing here. So actually, even though GTO Wizard, Jonathan, it says to mostly check your hand, it's actually okay with making your play once in a while. Like your play isn't losing EV here. Max,
hey,
I have
right.
some bad news for you though.
we know what theory says, but we take it to the streets.
But it's the magnitude. It says that calling ace 10 offsuit here,
magnitude.
you're losing 8.47 big blinds.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
I'm essentially
almost half.
I'm losing the turn bet here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire bet, almost exactly, all but 0.16 blinds. That's what you get.
No. This is
bet,
double
like-
that. This bet is double that because it's
You're-
50.
you're-
Oh,
losing,
this is SC.
Oh,
my God,
this
you're
is
screwing me.
look what you guys did to me. Yeah, this is sweeps coins. Okay, but it's costing you half the bet though, basically.
Yes.
To call, according to GTO,
Yep.
if you're playing against, a computer,
If Jonathan has the right range,
which I don't, obviously.
Of course
You
he
don't,
doesn't.
but-
he doesn't know what he's doing. He's
I
just
mean,
clicking
like
buttons.
really, I would assume the computer mostly is checking because it has a jack in its hand, and it's the same problem, right? It's blocking, it's blocking the things that it doesn't want to block here, right? Like betting with the jack doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's a little bit
right?
different as,
I don't know.
as the
Like, what do you
non-aggressor.
want to block and unblock as the button? I guess I don't.
Yeah,
It's tough to say.
Wes,
we block. Yeah, that's fair.
you got the combo brain here. Help me out here. So how many combos of value do we think our opponent has, and how many combos of bluffs do we think we have? So if we think our opponent can have all the way down to 8-10 through Jack 10 and King Jack, and then
So that's a good question. Are we giving him like? Because how do we weight him in terms of like having a queen? Because I think he's gonna sometimes bet a queen on the flop. Like he can have, if he can sometimes check back all the king queens, and then there's like queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, queen 9 suited.
Yeah, I mean,
Pocket
I think,
nines.
I guess we can assume that he has all the way up to two, the queen 9 here,
So like,
queen 9 suited.
so I don't know what
Suited,
suit your 10 is, but we'll just say there are 2 combos of queen 10 suited, 2 of queen 9 suited, 3 of queen jack suited. We'll say king, like, 12 of king queen, because I think you'd call king queen off.
Yep.
For sure.
And then, so what is that? 12.
Is your podcast
19.
like this? My God.
He's counting combos, man. We do that sometimes. Don't forget the 2 combos of 7-9 suited.
Yeah,
There's 2.
Right.
There's
Just so you know, I can edit out all the bullshit on our podcast. So I make Wes
Yeah.
look really smart by saying, "How many combos do you have, Wes?" And then I delete
Yeah,
the
that's a
fucking
snap
10 minutes of
response.
Oh, yeah,
thinking, and then
we're
it
not
just
gonna
has-
we're not gonna delete that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's
I
also
would
2
say-
combos of 7-9 suited, which actually
Yeah.
make a lot of sense.
So if you're calling that,
Yeah, I guess at 100 big blinds deep, you're not supposed to call that. I suppose I usually play deeper, so my brain was elsewhere.
Yeah.
I will say one other thing. Like I was saying that maybe the jack is a reason not to bet, but actually the more I thought about it, as you guys were talking about combos, actually I think it's a reason to bet, right? Because I block some of your continuing range, like
Jacks, yeah.
Jack tens, Jack, stuff like that. So actually that makes more. I probably have more bets because I have the jack in my hand, not less.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think based on being results oriented, I think everything is his continuing range here, though. If we got ace 10.
Yeah. I think you're
yeah.
right. That we see that now.
Yeah.
That it's just I don't believe you. He took the measure of me and
Yeah.
found me wanting.
He was right-ish, and he was
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah.
here's the
He was
thing
right.
is if I don't believe you and I don't think you're bluffing with a better hand, like I said, I don't think you have ace jack here. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then-
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as straight
That's
draw, I
totally
was going
fair.
to say we got like 3 6-5 suiteds. We got 4 6-5 suiteds, 3 Jack 10 suiteds, 4 King Jack suiteds, 3 King 10 suiteds, and then 4 10 8 suiteds. Is that right?
That sounds
That's
right.
right.
Okay.
No,
So
it's
there's,
3 10
a,
eights.
so there's a
3 10
lot of
eights, but-
bluffs, is what he's trying to say to the listeners
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Except 5-6 might have showed up earlier, but whatever.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I think 5-6 would have c-bet probably.
Yeah.
I mean, not c-bet, bet
yeah,
in
bet
position when
flop.
check too. Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, we end
Most of
up
the time.
here. We end up here with Max theoretically losing 10 blinds before showdown, and here we are.
Eight,
Feels
eight
good,
and a
man.
half. Let's give him
Feels
some
good.
credit.
We just rounded up around here, Wes. Let it be.
I'm trying to
It's
help
much
you out
easier
here,
to
buddy.
round up. The poker guys do not get into the nitty gritty of the math. Okay, we don't need math.
We get into it. You don't. All right. So let me just recap where we are for the listeners and the viewers and everything. Max has just called the turn. The pot now has 29 sweeps coins in it, so it's like 58 blinds. Max's stack has 36 sweeps coins in it, right? So he's got just not that much more than a pot back. The board is queen 9-7-4 with 2 spades, 1 club, and 1
Wait,
heart.
hang on. Before because we can't see what the river is now, and I forgot what it is. Max, do you
Yeah.
have a thought of like what rivers you're planning on hero calling here and which one? Because obviously, if like
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, I'm not just clicking call because because I'm not thinking about the hand. I'm clicking because I think my opponent is on one of the many straight draw combos that we've mentioned at this point. Because that's pretty much all I'm beating, right? I will say that as we call it, the banana on our podcast, Wes, that's going to be any brick. So any low offsuit card that doesn't connect any of the straights, or even like.
a board pair is good in this case.
Yeah, exactly. So any banana, I plan on pretty much calling any rivers if I'm calling the turn. Otherwise, if it was, here's the thing, like if I'm calling the turn, I should be planning on calling the river if the board doesn't change, if that makes sense.
It does.
I'm
What
trying
about
to
an
articulate
ace?
that.
What about an ace? What if he jams on an ace, like 36 into 28 on an ace? I'm curious about that one.
I'd probably just fold, assuming that he has 2 pair better.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, I'd have to be in the moment again to kind of try and figure that one out. So if you're saying if the river was ace X and I check and he just overbet jams into the pot, you're saying?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I mean,
I feel
in
like
the
you call.
yeah, in the 50 no limit streets, I might just find the call. I'm honestly not sure at this moment. I'm really not too sure.
I guess the way I think about it is like, on one hand, you just said like if a banana comes, you're planning on calling with ace high. So it's like if you hit an ace, doesn't bring in any straight draws. So like, isn't that the best of the so-called bananas?
I mean, you would think
Yeah.
so, but then all of a sudden, I think my opponent was like betting ace 9 on the turn or something. I mean, obviously, there's not very many combos of that. Probably not doing with ace 7. Honestly, I'm not too sure. You are right, Wes. You are 100% right. I think that the ace is a banana. I guess I don't know the answer to that. It didn't happen, so
Yeah. Let's go
Or a
back to
10,
reality.
like a 10 improves you, but also you're not really beating.
yeah.
I get, and like the problem with the
A 10,
ace-
a 10 is not a banana though.
That's right. But like, I guess what you were saying with the ace is even if you hit an ace here and he jams, you're losing to all the value still.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Let's see that river.
All right, here it is. It's the 3 of diamonds. So 5-6 comes in, but we already talked about how 5-6 was likely a bet on the flop for my range, my hand. So so it's not something anyone's going to be too worried about for either one of us, I don't think. It's about as banana-y as you're going to get, right? The 3 of diamonds there.
Well put, Jonathan. Well put.
Thank you.
So we already know Max's thought process here. He's in check probably call mode because of the 3 being a semi-banana, a small banana, a plantain, perhaps.
This is going to be interesting to talk about here. Continue your thought, Grant, then I will.
Yeah, but what is Jonathan's thought process? Let's rehash that because we talked about it a month and a half ago or whatever. But so obviously he checks, and you got called on the turn on a pretty big bet. So you're thinking he has like showdownable but not amazing hands most of the time, right? That's probably what you're thinking.
I think like he is being a little stubborn. I was hoping that I would have knocked him off his pocket 8s or ace king or whatever in the last street. But, a lot of times it takes 2 streets to prove that, to sort of convince someone that you're not bluffing. Like one stab doesn't always do it. And so I am raring to go believing that you have a relatively weak range and that you're going to fold to a big bet almost always. And I think that's true for the non-pro population, the non-very serious population here. Even if they call the turn, mostly they're folding the river to a big bet. If I knew that you were going to be thinking these ways about it, I would probably have a different take on it, But that's the thought anyway, for sure. And so just so everyone can be caught up here, Max, of course, does check. And I load up for bear here. And I think I end up betting 23 into 28. But that's, 2/3 of your stack. It is 23 into 28.76.
Right. So
which feels like a
Max,
substantial bet.
Heart of a lion.
So we know you end up calling. We'll just say that. You end up calling with ace 10, and somehow this is why it's an amazing hand. Jonathan wins with ace jack high for accidental value.
Yes.
So did the sizing on the river play into your decision at all, Max, or was the decision relatively made up by the 3 being
No,
the
size. I mean, the sizing definitely did play a role into it, and I actually discussed this with Wes, and we had a disagreement about this. He doesn't think that should necessarily matter. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that, Wes. But yes, I think that if let's jump back to like our potential hands that our opponent could have checked back flop with, or Jonathan could have checked back flop with and then started betting turn and river. Say he has like queen 10 or queen jack. I don't think that he's going to go for these sizings on these 2 streets. So now I'm kind of limiting. I'm going to remove. Then again, this might be wrong, but I'm going to remove those and I'm going to start putting in these sizings to make more sense with hands like set of 9s that turn to set, potentially a set of 7s or 4s, I guess, something along the lines of sets, and then everything else I'm pretty much thinking he's polarized between that and bluffs.
That's a reasonable thought process in my opinion, and I
agree.
Think I share it. I think 11 would have been a much more like I should consider folding this because he's trying to eke some value out of something.
And that's what I was
weaker.
thinking. I was like, if he had queen 10 or queen jack, or I mean, obviously queen jack does block some of my continuing hands, but blockers are overrated, as I mentioned earlier. I think that I would probably even been more inclined to fold to a more milky looking bet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's totally about, it's all about opposition, right? It's all about who your customer is. And so I thought you were a different customer than you were. If I know I have to tell a good story against you, I'd probably do the whole hand differently, quite frankly. But like normally against this population, I don't think you do have to tell a good story except against very few members of it. And instead you just take out the wrench and hit them over the head a few times. And then they're like, oh my God, please stop hitting me. And they fold. So I think so, so customer really, really matters here. For sure.
It really does. 2 things I want to say to that. First off, nice value bet. Secondly, Wes, are you able to articulate on what you thought of when I was talking about my opinion on the sizing? I remember you having a disagreement, but I don't remember exactly what your reasoning was.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess my thought is like if I was sitting here with queen 10 suited for Jonathan, and again, this is not 100%. It's not 100% disagreement, but it's more like I think there are some players that your thought process is going to be accurate against, and maybe I play like different games, so it just plays differently. But generally speaking, if I had like any sort of queen here on the button, I would almost view that as the nuts. Like I would actually be tempted to maybe not like queen 10 suited, but if I had king queen plus, I would overbet jam. And
Would you bet king? Wouldn't you bet king queen on the flop though?
mostly, but like there's, I would probably mix it. And
I think I'm if I'm check two on this flop with king queen, I'm probably 100% betting. But maybe that's me. Anyways,
I think that's
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're up against, it depends who you're up against, right? But like you got to show if you're up against someone who's paying attention, you got to show that you're willing to check those hands too. And king queen's a really good hand to check back with, right? Because now a king there's only one overcard to be afraid of, which is nice.
I could see king queen of spades specifically being a really good check back, but that's only
that
one
I agree
combo.
with. That I do agree with. Yes.
Yeah. I guess basically the way I would look at it is if I'm on the button here, just Jonathan, exactly as you said, I would expect my opponent to have something of showdown value that isn't that strong. But the difference is I would expect that, spades missed most of the reasonable straight draws. Like the 3 of diamonds is such a blank. I would expect maybe not like eights because it blocks the straight draws, but something like ace 7 suited, ace 4 suited, even like
Ace 10 off.
maybe. You never know, right? Like you never really know. But I would expect a lot of this stuff actually to call and not fold. And I would just like treat top pair almost like the nuts here. But especially because like the one hand that might be trapping is a set of queens, but there's only one combo of that if we have a queen. So like I would probably just either bet this size or honestly just like overbet shove for value with the queen. And
Jonathan, weren't you considering doing that? Isn't that? Do I remember you saying something about that?
I just knew I wanted to go big, and then the question was, what's the smallest size I can go that I really think is going to do the job against a hand like ace king or pocket eights. That's really what I was thinking at the time, and I felt like, again, not thinking you were someone who thinks this way, I felt like 23 is definitely going to get those hands to fold. Like they're just going to fold.
And one more kind of thing I wanted to bring up too is that I think also, in my opinion, if I were in your spot and I had one of the mini straight draws that whiffed and I was going to turn it into a delayed double barrel, I would say that these are probably somewhere around the sizings I would have used if I was bluffing. So I think
that's kind of to Wes's point though, right? Like you should balance that with your top pairs that are under repped.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Like I like Wes's thought process here for the top pair, and it's kind of how I was thinking about it as well. But again, we're not knowing that we're two thinking players in this hand. We both think that the other guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Yeah. So it changes things a lot, and I do understand why this size would lead to a call if you're thinking like, okay, this player's always going to bet a queen on the flop. They're never going to bet a 9 for this size on the river. So what the hell do they have? There's a lot of missed straight draws and flush draws out there. I actually, and not having a spade at this point is good for calling. So I actually don't mind it. I think. I
swear, if we peel my cards over and have the ace of spades, I'm going to be rude.
Yeah, that would be. That'd be too bad.
It's got to be ace of clubs. Ace of clubs is in my hand. Ace
you might have the 10 of spades, but there's no way you have the ace of spades. There's no chance.
There's the thumb down.
This is when I knew I was in trouble. I was like, oh my God, he's going to call. Oh my God. This is terrible.
He
really goes into the tank here.
He didn't snap.
See, so after all this talk, like still, you weren't sure and you didn't love it. And then let's see it. Okay.
Two
red cards.
2 reds.
Angry face.
You're like, God. Yeah, that was incredible. What a great
can't
moment.
tell
I
you
will
how
say you guys had a very good read on each other's hand. On what each other was doing.
Honestly, it's a very fun hand, and a hand that probably wouldn't be played between any other two players like this at this table.
Most
maybe
likely not.
Not too many. Yeah.
But I thought it was so funny because I have absolutely no idea that Jonathan PG. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, Jonathan Poker Guys. There's a million people named Jonathan in this world, right? A billion. I don't even know how many, but.
Yeah, 1/8 of the population.
The fact that, right. it's next to Muhammad in top names, but I think that the fact that I woke up one morning and someone was like, oh, "You're on Poker Guys playing a hand with Jonathan," I'm like, "Oh God, how bad did I look in this hand?"
Yeah, one of our friends texted me about the hand, because they listen to the poker guys. They listen to your guys' podcast too, and yeah, he was entertaining. I mean, honestly, it's provided a lot of content. Like this, it was only at 50 NL. Like this was a very good investment.
Well, yeah, I guess whoever you look at it from. But anyways, did you buy anything nice with that $50?
Yeah, I bought many nice things actually with that $50. In fact,
I will say I'm glad it went to
sorry.
a fellow podcaster instead of one of these other schmucks at the table. So
There you
Yeah,
go.
they don't
I
deserve
go.
it. They don't deserve it. But
I
speaking
will
of
ma-
podcasts,
yeah.
these are the Suited Kings. It's Max and Wes. You should check out their podcast. You guys got anything else you wanna talk about? Any other places to find you?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I want to remind you guys to check the link in the description to sign up to Clubs Poker under Grant Jonathan's code. The Poker Guys code.
All right,
you
you
go.
actually were going. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Good.
Yeah.
Make sure to get in there. It really helps support their efforts in bringing you this awesome content. So make sure to do that. And one last thing I wanted to mention is, when you see that pretty face on that avatar, just know it's a thinking player. Okay.
Okay. Do you have like a custom avatar?
I did have
Yeah,
a
we
custom
both
avatar.
do.
Oh, what the hell? We got to talk to our guy.
It's
It's
power
weird-
of
it's weird
suggestion.
that we
The
don't
power
have
of
that.
suggestion. Just make sure.
Oh yeah,
to-
that is you. That
at
does
that.
look like you.
Yeah.
Now I know.
about
Mine
that?
looks
All right.
nothing like me, but it's
Wes looks like an Italian dude with like. I'm just gonna end this thought there.
I think that's a great way to end it. Wes looks like an Italian. End of podcast.
I'll send you guys the picture. It's pretty funny. It looks accurate, Max. That picture it's based on, it's accurate to that, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, guys, Suited Kings. Yeah, Suited Kings. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, or suitedkingspoker.buzzsprout.com. Yeah, and we really enjoy listening to the Poker Guys podcast. That's kind of, how we got, interested into this space in the first place. You guys have done a great job over all the years, and Wes actually introduced me to you guys on one of our poker trips. And of course, we just binge your episodes while we're riding. So appreciate all the content you've been able to provide for us.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you, and thanks
Thanks,
for
guys.
joining us because it was interesting to get the perspective of the other guy in one of the
Yeah,
more
it's
perplexing
great.
hands that we've done on Table Talk.
I hope that we can definitely do something in the future. That was fun.
All right, sounds good,
Yeah,
guys.
it was a cool hand.
You are a sunlight.
Music is my sunlight, and all I need is one mic. And I can show every single MC how it's done right. Every time I come by, I'm bound to leave them tongue-tied. I'm sipping on liquor, a quitter is what I'm not. We got one life, and I took a minor break, but I'm back to claim the throne. And gonna be traveling the globe, and still have time to make it home. And you gon' meet